The following is an EWTN special presentation.
Welcome to this EWTN News live coverage of Pope Francis's apostolic journey to the Republic of Korea. I'm Raymond Arroyo. I'm joined by a native Korean, a priest of the Archdiocese of Washington, and the pastor of the Shrine of St. Jude in Rockville, Maryland, Father Paul Lee. Father Paul, thanks for being here and for staying with us throughout the visit. Now, the Pope arrived in South Korea earlier today, and in just a few moments, we'll take you live to the Blue House, the presidential residence in Seoul, where the Holy Father will greet local officials and deliver an address. Now, earlier he was welcomed by the South Korean president, but before we go to the event, tell us, Father Lee, the significance of Pope Francis's visit here. What does he hope to achieve? What do you think will be the reaction of the Korean Church?
First of all, the Korean people in general have been waiting for this moment with great anticipation. The Korean society, as you may know, has certain issues polarized by the internal ideological clashes, disparity between the haves and have-nots, and of course the great divide between the North and the South.
Yes.
And they want healing, they want reconciliation. They'd like to have a vision and hope. And our Holy Father, Francis, has been proclaiming the joy of the gospel in so many different ways, in a way that average people could understand and relate to.
Yeah, and this is a vibrant church. I mean, the numbers have gone through the roof here, a 70% increase in the last decade in the number of Catholics. It really is an astounding thing.
It truly is. When I was growing up over there, only 2% of the general population were Catholics. Now, over 11%. And it's been the Catholic Church's consistent respect for human rights, advocacy for the rights of the little people, and respect for people in general, and openness to the truth. I think some of those characteristics of the Catholic Church has attracted a lot of people.
Very good. We'll leave it there, Father. We are getting first video from the Blue House in Seoul, so we take you there now for the start of the public portion of Pope Francis's visit to the Republic of Korea.
분쟁 지역에 화해와 평화의 메시지를 전파해 주셨습니다. 우리 국민들에게도 교황님의 방한은 큰 희망과 용기가 될 것입니다. 그동안 우리 국민들은 세월호 사고의 아픔과 젊은 병사들의 죽음으로 많은 상처를 받았습니다. 이번 교황님의 방문으로 우리 국민들의 마음의 상처와 아픔이 치유되기를 바랍니다. 프란치스코 교황님, 교황님께서 아시아 지역 처음으로 한국을 방문하신 데에는 한국 천주교회에 대한 교황님의 각별한 애정과 함께 분단의 아픔을 겪고 있는 한반도에 평화와 화해의 정신을 심어주고자 하는 교황님의 뜻이 담겨 있다고 생각합니다. 평소에도 한반도의 평화 회복을 위해 기도해 주시고 이번 방한 기간에도 평화와 화해를 위한 미사를 집전해 주시는 교황님의 큰 관심과 노력에 진심으로 감사드립니다. 저와 우리 국민들은 이번 교황님의 방한이 오랜 분단의 상처를 치유하고 한반도에 희망의 통일 시대를 열어가는 소중한 계기가 될 것으로 믿습니다. 내년이면 남북 분단 70주년이 됩니다. 남북 분단과 한국 전쟁은 우리 민족에게 오랜 세월 동안 큰 상처를 주었습니다. 동족 사랑자의 전쟁으로 수많은 인명이 희생되었고 아직도 휴전선 너머에 있는 가족들을 만나지 못한 채 평생을 그리움과 고통 속에 살고 계신 이산 가족들이 우리나라에만 7만여 명이 계십니다. 한국 천주교도 북한 지역의 교회 재산을 몰수당했고 수많은 성직자와 수도자들은 납치되거나 목숨을 잃었습니다. 이제는 이런 아픔의 역사를 딛고 진정한 남북 화해와 한반도 통일 시대를 열어갈 때라고 생각합니다. 대한민국 정부는 남북이 대립을 극복하고 전쟁과 핵 위협에서 벗어나서 평화와 화해의 길을 가고자 최선을 다하고 있습니다.
Pope Francis on his journey, amongst them Cardinal Pietro Parolin, Vatican Secretary of State, Cardinal Stanislav Rilko, the President of the Pontifical Council for the Laity,
세계 평화와 인류 번영에도 기여하는
Monsignor Angelo Becciu, who is in charge of General Affairs at the Secretary of State, and of course the lineup of South Korean clergy, including the Bishop of Jeju and the President of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Korea, Monsignor Peter Uil-kang, and the Archbishop of Seoul, Cardinal Andrew Yam-su-yung.
대한민국이 국가의 기틀을 다지던 1947년 비오 12세 교황께서 주한 교황사절을 파견해 대한민국을 한반도의 유일한 합법적 독립국가로
As I mentioned, Pope Francis is scheduled to give his address in English, which is unusual. We're not used to that. But in actual fact, he will be speaking English on various occasions during this 5-day trip. He will be delivering his homily in English during celebration with the youth on Sunday. On Sunday, he will be speaking English during the Reconciliation Mass. He'll be speaking English to the youth on Saturday at the conclusion of the Asian Youth Festival. And he's also scheduled to give his Angelus address in English.
한국 순교자들은 반상과 남녀 차별이 엄격했던 조선 사회에서 이타적 삶의 자세로 자유와 평등을 확산시킨 성각자들이셨습니다. 밀알 하나가 땅에 떨어져 죽지 않으면 한 알이 그대로 있지만 죽으면 많은
The Korean War, of course, is a shadow that hangs as the North and the South are divided, and so many families are divided.
공동체로 출발한
As I was saying, it took the lives of more than 1 million South Koreans and another 1 million North Koreans, hundreds of thousands of Chinese military, and 36,500 US soldiers. The conflict, in fact, never officially ended. Hostilities were put on hold with an armistice agreement in July 1953. Since then, there have been regular small flare-ups of hostility between the two nations.
문화를 체험하면서 꿈을 나눌 수 있도록 천주교 대전 교구에서 정성 들여
Some 28,000 US troops are still based in South Korea.
격려의 메시지를 통해
Their presence is generally favored.
미래를 발견하는 소중한 시간이 되기를 기원합니다. 앞으로 한국 정부도
A recent flare-up between the two nations involved the South Korean government's decision to build a naval base on an island off the southern coast. The construction of the base has infuriated local villagers because apparently it was built on a pristine piece of land, an ecological jewel. Korean peace activists, including many Catholics, have raised their voices against this project, and demonstrations have halted building efforts more than half a dozen times.
대한민국은 지금 새로운 변화와
The Jesuits and Columban missionaries in Korea have joined Korean bishops, religious and laity in daily prayers at the main naval gate.
일시를 도모하고 한반도 통일 시대를 열어가며 나아가 세계 평화에 기여하는 민족이 될 수 있도록 교황님의 기도를 부탁드립니다. 다시 한번
During his 5-day visit, the Pope will also be spending time with the disabled. He's scheduled to visit the House of Hope Rehabilitation Center in Cotonye or the Flower Village in Seoul. Applause for the President's welcome speech to Pope Francis.
프란치스코 교황께서 연설하시겠습니다.
And now it is the Pope's turn, and as I said, he will be speaking English.
Madam President, honorable government and authorities, distinguished members of the diplomatic corps, dear friends, it is a great joy for me to come to Korea, the land of the morning calm, and to experience not only the natural beauty of this country, but above all, the beauty of this people and its rich history and culture. This national legacy has been tested through the years by violence, persecution, and war. But despite these trials, the heat of the day and the dark of the night have always given way to the morning calm. That is, to an undiminished hope of justice, peace, and unity. What a gift hope is. We cannot become discouraged in our pursuit of these goals, which are for the good not only of the Korean people, but of the entire region and the whole world. I wish to thank President Park Geun-hye for the warm welcome. I greet her and the distinguished members of the government. I would like to acknowledge also the members of the diplomatic corps and all those present who by their many efforts have assisted in preparing for my visit. I am most grateful for your hospitality, which has immediately made me feel at home among you. My visit to Korea is occasioned by the 6th Day, which brings together young Catholics throughout this vast continent in a joyful celebration of their common faith. In the course of my visit, I will also beatify a number of Koreans who died as martyrs for the Christian faith, Paul Yun Ji Chun and his 123 companions. These two celebrations complement one another. Korean culture understands well the inherent dignity and wisdom of our elders and honor their place in the society. We Catholics honor our elders who were martyred for the faith because they were willing to give their lives for the truth which they had come to believe and by which they sought to live their lives. They teach us how to live fully for God and for the good of one another. A wise and great people do not only cherish their ancestral traditions, they also treasure their young, seeking to pass on the legacy of the past and to apply it to the challenges of the present. Whenever young people gather together, as on the present occasion, it is a precious opportunity for all of us to listen to her hopes and concerns. We are also challenged to reflect on how well we are transmitting our values to the next generation and on the kind of world and society we are preparing to hand on to them. In this context, I think it is especially important for us to reflect on the need to give our young people the gift of peace. This appeal has all the more resonance here in Korea, a land which has long suffered because of a lack of peace. I can only express my appreciation for the efforts being made in favor of reconciliation and stability on the Korean Peninsula, and to encourage those efforts, for they are the only sure path to lasting peace. Korea's quest for peace is a cause close to our hearts, for it affects the stability of the entire area and indeed of our whole war-weary world. The quest of peace also represents challenge for each of us, and in particular way for those of you dedicated to the pursuit of the common good of the human family through the patient work of diplomacy. It is perennial challenge of breaking down the walls of distrust and hatred by promoting a culture of reconciliation and solidarity. For diplomacy, as the art of the possible, is based on the firm and persevering conviction that peace can be won through quiet listening and dialogue rather than by mutual recriminations, fruitless criticism, and displays of force. Peace is not simply the absence of war, but the work of justice. And justice, as a virtue, calls for the discipline of forbearance. It demands that we not forget past injustice but overcome them through forgiveness, tolerance, and cooperation. It demands the willingness to discern and attain mutually beneficial goals, building foundation of mutual respect, understanding, and reconciliation. May all of us dedicate this day to peace, to praying for it, and deepening our resolve to achieve it. Dear friends, your efforts as political and civic leaders are directed to the goal of building a better, more peaceful, just, a prosperous world for our children. Experience teaches us that in an increasingly globalized world, our understanding of the common good of progress as development must ultimately be in human and not merely in economic terms. Like most of our developed nations, Korea struggles with important social issues, political divisions, economic inequities, and concerns about the responsible stewardship of the natural environment. How important it is that the voice of every member of society be heard, and that a spirit of communication, dialogue, and cooperation be fostered. It is likewise important that special concern be shown for the poor, the vulnerable, and those who have no voice, not only by meeting their immediate needs, but also by assisting them in their human and cultural advancement. It is my hope that Korean democracy will continue to be strengthened, and that the nation will prove to be a leader also in the globalization of solidarity, which is so necessary today, one which looks to the integral development of every member of our human family. In his second visit to Korea, 25 years ago, St. John Paul II stated his conviction that the future of Korea will depend on the presence among its people of many wise, virtuous, and deeply spiritual men and women. In echoing his word today, I assure you of the continued desire of Korean Catholic community to participate fully in the life of the nation. The Church wishes to contribute to the education of the young, the growth of a spirit of solidarity with the poor and disadvantaged, and the formation of new generations of citizens ready to bring the wisdom and vision inherited from their forebears and born of their faith to the great political and social question facing the nation. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you one more for your welcome and hospitality. Bless you and all the beloved Korean people. In a special way, may He bless the elderly and the young people, who by preserving memory and inspiring courage are our greatest treasure and our hope for the future.
이상으로 박근혜 대통령과 프란치스코 교황의 연설회를 마칩니다. 대통령과 교황께서 먼저 행사장을 떠나십니다.
You're watching and listening to EWTN News live coverage of Pope Francis's apostolic journey to South Korea.
At the beginning of his 5-day visit to the Republic of Korea, in which he expressed special thought and special prayers for the elderly and the young people, who by preserving memory and inspiring courage, he says, are the greatest treasure and our hope for the future. Pope Francis is leaving the reception hall in the Blue House, and he is due now to travel by car to the headquarters of the Korean Bishops' Conference, a 12-kilometer journey. He will meet there with bishops of Korea and is scheduled to pronounce another official discourse. Later on, he will journey to the nunciature in Seoul, will dine privately and prepare for a busy day tomorrow. Friday, the 15th of August, which sees a transfer by helicopter to the city of Daejeon and the celebration of Holy Mass on the solemnity of the Assumption at the World Cup Stadium in Daejeon, the prayer of the Angelus, a lunch with a selection of young people.
That concludes our coverage for now. Join us Friday, August 15th, for the most extensive coverage of Pope Francis's visit to South Korea anywhere. The Holy Father will celebrate Mass on the Feast of the Assumption from Daejeon, and we will bring it to you live. Visit EWTN.com for the latest schedule in your area. On behalf of Father Paul Lee and the staff and crew of EWTN News, thank you for joining us. I'm Raymond Arroyo. We'll see you next time. Bye now.